Okay, so the Eagles have gotten some updates on a few key injuries following their win over the Steelers, and it's mostly good news, as it seems like a few of their banged up stars are going to be just fine. That being said though, why is there still reason to be a little cautious? Meanwhile, Nick Sirianni just silenced the drama surrounding a situation involving him and Jalen Carter, while Darius Slay is shutting up the critics as he's quietly been playing at an elite level, and this offensive weapon is being heralded as the Birds' most underrated player within the locker room. So we're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles. And to start this video, I want to take a moment to give some perspective on exactly what the Eagles have been able to do recently, because I feel like it's really easy to get caught up in all the storylines and the drama and the ups and downs of a very long season, and what's actually harder to do is just to be in the moment and enjoy what's actually going on. And what's going on right now is that the Eagles are having another successful and also seemingly special season, in which they've already clinched their 4th straight playoff berth and also their 7th in the past 8 seasons, not to mention that this is now their 3rd year in a row with at least 11 wins, and that the Birds are also obviously now on an extremely impressive 10-game winning streak, which is the longest in the history of their franchise. So again, as easy as it is to get caught up in all the little storylines and other things of that nature along the way, as fans, I feel like we gotta make sure to not take this for granted and appreciate all the success that the Birds are having right now, because it truly is special. However, for the Eagles players, the mindset should be completely different, as they're not focused on all the success that they've had or the historic win streak that they're on, but rather they're just staying locked in and focused on the task at hand. And star tackle Jordan Mailata made that clear after their win over the Steelers.
That 10 straight wins, a franchise record, what does that mean to you?
Nothing. Doesn't mean anything. Don't worry about the next game. And everyone else knows that, so it's great to win games. It's cool to set records in history, but at the same time, we left a lot of plays out there, and it was a great win. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being down at all, but we're not focused on, chasing records or anything. But it's pretty good.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, like Mailata said, the Eagles are not focused on franchise records or statistical achievements or any other accolades, but instead they're just continuing to put their heads down and put all their focus into preparing for the next game. Or in other words, they're just keeping the main thing the main thing. And I love that, because that mentality is exactly what has allowed them to bounce back after the bye week and go on this 10-game winning streak in the first place. Saquon Barkley recently emphasized that, saying, quote, "I think it's funny. You go back 10 weeks ago, the sky was falling and everyone was saying, we should do this, we should do that. Everyone was jumping off the bridge, but we kept the main thing the main thing. We kept focus and believing in each other. We have to continue to do that. It's still a long season, and to accomplish what we want to accomplish, we got a big divisional opponent coming up." So again, it's clear from those comments there that Saquon and the Eagles are just keeping the main thing, and that their mindset has already flipped to the next game versus the Washington Commanders. And add Jalen Carter to the list of guys that are as locked in as ever.
I got the cameras on, but I had 2 sacks today. You was still in your bag, bro. What up, man? We was still in your bag, man. Quit, little dog. We on the next one. We worry about nothing else.
I mean, you gotta love that mindset from Carter immediately after the win, and it shows you that he too is fully bought into everything that Nick Sirianni and the coaches are selling in that Eagles locker room. And that brings me to this stupid storyline, which, by the way, before we even get into it, I'm gonna tell you right now is just a complete non-issue. But basically, it all started when Jalen Carter committed a stupid, unnecessary roughness penalty on a Steelers punt in the 4th quarter that could have and possibly should have given the Steelers a first down. So obviously, Nick Sirianni wasn't too happy, and the TV broadcast showed him trying to go over and say something to Carter, but defensive line coach Clint Hurtt stepped in and stops him. And that's really the full extent of it, but this is Philly, so you already know that there were a ton of people making a big deal about this, which personally I think is completely ridiculous. But for those that are skeptical or worried, Nick Sirianni cleared the whole thing up in his press conference on Monday.
As Jalen was coming off the field, I was kind of getting after him there, and I think that there was part of me that wanted to go back, and really, so I kind of made my point as Jalen was coming off the field, and then I went back, and what Clint was saying is like, Coach, I got it, I got it, I've already handled it, and the knowing, and so I had said something to him, Clint had said something to him, and it wasn't, knowing Clint and how he's coached him for the past, half a year that he's been here, I knew he had it. And so then, I kind of went away, and as you can see, Jalen came back over to me, and and we had a moment there after the fact. And so I know how good Jalen Carter wants to be. I know how aggressive he plays, and my message to him always, and all our players are, we want to be aggressive, we want to be physical, we want to do all those things, but we want to do that within the rules. We got to be better, and he knows that, and we'll be better from this moment.
Yeah, so there you go. That makes perfect sense to me. Sirianni let Carter have it when he was initially coming off the field. Then he tried to go back and say something else to him, and Clint Hurtt basically just said, I got it from here. And then, like Nick said, you can clearly see Carter and Sirianni hugging it out later in the game. So, I mean, come on, like, that's just not a big deal at all. Just because a couple grown men have a little confrontation or argument, if you even want to call it that, doesn't mean that there's any drama or issues going on behind the scenes. I mean, that concept is just so stupid and childish to me, so let's just move on from that whole thing. And if you want to talk about the culture of this team and the connection between the guys behind the scenes, just look at how guys like Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and others all came to Darius Slay's defense during this little scuffle in the first quarter of the Steelers game. And when asked about it after the game, Quinyon Mitchell said, quote, "Just seeing an altercation, I was just protecting my brother. I know if it was vice versa, he would have done the same thing. Coach is always harping on being a team, so I feel like that was a moment right there." So, I mean, that should tell you a lot about the culture of this team, and it clearly shows you that these guys have each other's backs, and they'll literally fight for each other if necessary. Oh, and by the way, can we show Darius Slay some love? Because there was a ton of talk, mainly early in the season, about how Slay is soft, and that he's washed, and so on, yet here in this clip, he clearly did not back down, so I'd say that doesn't fit with the soft narrative that everyone was running with earlier. And then in regards to his play on the field, he has been nothing short of awesome over his past 8 games, and you can clearly see that from these numbers. And overall, he's allowed just 14 catches on 40 targets for a 35% completion percentage, which is just insane, and he has also allowed just 169 yards, no touchdowns, and a passer rating of just 43.8. So those are some pretty freaking elite numbers for any corner over an 8-game stretch, let alone a supposedly washed 33-year-old corner who at this point I would say is pretty underrated. And that's not even mentioning the fact that he's really been banged up all season, and it seems like pretty much every game he's going down with a new injury. Yet he's fought through many of those injuries, come back, and continued to play at a very high level. And both Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio made sure to give Slay his credit for everything in recent press conferences.
What have you seen from him as far as that resilience, that desire to get back out there and play well?
Yeah, I think he definitely has all of that. I think he's having fun. I think he's enjoying playing, for a guy that's, 12-year veteran. And he's itching to get back out there. I just think that speaks volume for him.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, I think every time I think about Slay and talk about Slay, I talk about, how good of a teammate he is, and that's true, and how good of a player he is. But he is physically tough, physically and mentally tough, and he's resilient, and able to fight through things that he's going through, and come back out and still play great football. And so, man, there's a reason Slay has the C on his chest.
I think a lot of Eagles fans owe Darius Slay an apology, because he's been balling this season while fighting through injury. He's also continued to be a really good leader for this team, and just overall, he's been a really important piece of this Eagles #1 ranked defense. And while we're handing out praise, I also want to take a moment to highlight who many Eagles seem to believe is the most underrated guy on the team. But before we get into that, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this coming throughout the rest of this season, then make sure you subscribe, and also really, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss any of the Eagles coverage or content I got coming on this channel. I cover the birds pretty much daily here, so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Eagles news, this is the spot. So again, subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes on this video. And now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So obviously, the Eagles have a ton of star players that get all the headlines. There is one guy who doesn't get much attention, but he just continues to make the most of the opportunities that he's given, and that's running back Kenneth Gainwell. As well, Saquon's backup hasn't necessarily had a huge impact throughout the season. Again, what he has done is make the most of his opportunities, and that's exactly what he did in this last game against the Steelers, as with Saquon Barkley possibly being a bit limited while dealing with some sort of injury, which we're going to get into later. Kenny G had an expanded role and he played very well, as he had 60 total yards on offense and he had a couple crucial third down conversions at various moments where he made magic happen. And like I said, those plays were super impressive, so I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for not only that, but also again for just continuing to make the most of whatever opportunities come his way. And apparently, Kenny G's efforts and talent have not gone unnoticed by the guys in the Eagles locker room, as Lane Johnson said, quote, "I think he's probably the most underrated guy in this locker room. He'd be a starter anywhere else." And then both offensive coordinator Kellen and Nick Sirianni also had some extremely high praise for the fourth-year running back.
Yeah, Kenny's the best. Just to have a guy behind Saquon like Kenny who's played very valuable roles in this league for a number of years now. A guy who, in a lot of other circumstances, probably getting a lot more touches, a lot more opportunities. The way he handles himself and the way he prepares is second to none. I think Kenny has done an excellent job when he's called upon, and given that opportunity, he takes advantage of it. And obviously his ability to, play in space, again, he made some big-time plays.
I think the guys make fun of him sometimes because they know he's one of my favorites. I say, don't say that to anybody, but I think it's just that they perceive that because I'm always talking to Kenny to reinforce what you want your culture to look like. Hey, guys, it takes everybody. Watch this. And the two opportunities that Kenny got, watch what he does with it. Now he's contributing on special teams, and I don't just mean like just returning. Like, he's making tackles on special teams. Like, every opportunity that he has, he takes advantage of. I mean, he's tough. He works hard. He doesn't, he could be a guy that got opportunities elsewhere, but he doesn't. He gets limited opportunities. He takes advantage of them. I mean, what's not there not to love about Kenny Gainwell? He's a special player. He's a special teammate. Really, he speaks so much to what our culture is here.
Man, that is certainly some extremely high praise. And again, while I'm not saying that Kenny is a star or anything like that, I do definitely think that he deserves credit for the positive things that he's been able to do this year while playing a limited role. But now, getting to a couple different guys that play major roles for this team, we did get a few injury updates on some key players following the win over the Steelers. Now, this is mostly news from a couple days ago that I didn't get to cover in my video yesterday, but I still do think it's all noteworthy. So, we start with guard Landon Dickerson, who at this point, we don't actually have any real update on. Obviously, we saw him exit the game there in the second half with a knee injury, so we'll all just have to hope that he's okay, and we'll get a real update tomorrow on his status when the Birds are out practicing. But then, moving on to Saquon Barkley, he apparently seemed to be dealing with something during the Steelers game, which a lot of people speculated was a result of a hit from Minkah Fitzpatrick that took him out of the air and caused him to land on his shoulder. But after the game, Barkley actually said that it didn't have anything to do with that hit at all, as he said, quote, "It wasn't from the hit, nothing crazy, a little minor, just get ready for next week." So I would say that's definitely good news coming straight from Barkley, that he feels like he's okay and the injury's not a big deal. So if you're just going off that, it does sound like he's going to be fine, but still, this is going to be something to monitor, as we know how crucial Saquon is to this offense and this team, so to have him banged up come playoff time would really hurt. So hopefully the Eagles can manage whatever injury it is properly and get him back as healthy as possible. And I feel like you could probably say the same exact thing about A.J. Brown, as he also got a little banged up when his ankle got rolled up on in the fourth quarter on what looked to be a clear hip drop tackle from the Steelers defender, and it didn't look great when it happened. Luckily though, Brown did come back in the game, and after it was over, he, like Saquon, had a very positive update, as he said that he was okay and his ankle was fine. So this is definitely a very positive update, but again, just because AJ says he's okay doesn't mean that he's not going to miss any time or that the injury won't limit him this week during practice at the very least. I mean, the fact of the matter is we just don't know the exact severity of the injury, and we won't know until the Birds release their first injury report of the week tomorrow. So that'll be crucial just to see how severe all these injuries are and whether there's a chance that any of these guys miss time or not. So again, while these updates did provide a little bit of clarity on the injuries, we'll just have to wait and see. But you guys already know that I'm going to be covering all the Eagles news leading into their matchup with the Commanders this week, and that includes everything on the injury report. So if you guys don't want to miss any of that, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And also, again, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support if you did enjoy this video. It does really help me out a ton, and I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, if you want to leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video, that would also be greatly appreciated. And if you want to watch another Eagles video going over their win versus the Steelers, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.